GitHub 데스크탑 앱을 설치하고 나면 실행에서 자신의 계정으로 로그인한 다음 커런트 리포지토리 그 다음은 .gitignore 파일입니다. 이 파일은 git에 업로드되는 파일 중에서 무시할 파일을 설정하는 옵션을 지정하는 파일입니다. 유니티 프로젝트에서는 에디터를 켤 때마다 내용이 바뀌거나 굳이 다른 개발자들과 공유하지 않아도 프로젝트를 진행하는 데 전혀 문제가 없는 파일들이 있습니다. 이런 파일들까지 다 올려버리면 개발자가 수정한 내용을 보기가 어려워지기 때문에 이런 .gitignore 파일로 업데이트 받지 말아야 할 파일들을 지정하는 것입니다. 목록에서 유니티를 선택해주면 유니티 프로젝트에서 무시해야 할 파일들을 자동으로 설정해줍니다. 라이센스 같은 경우는 비공개 프로젝트에서는 필요 없습니다. 공개 프로젝트라면 프로젝트의 성격에 맞게 라이센스를 설정해주면 됩니다. 있지만 한 번에 올리고 데스크탑 앱은 Git 리포지토리를 찾아 먼저 유니티 프로젝트의 내용물들을 리포트를 만든 다음 옮겨주면 됩니다. 에디터를 닫습니다. 그리고 그 다음에는 리포지토리에 유니티 프로하고자 하는 리포지토리를 찾아서 경로를 지정한 다음 클론 버튼을 클릭하면 GitHub 서버에서 그리고 GitHub.com에 있는 자신의 리포지토리 중에서 데스크탑에 다운로드 받아서 사용하고자 하는 리포지토리를 찾아서 경로를 지정한 다음 클론 버튼을 클릭하면 GitHub 서버에서 데스크탑으로 리포지토리가 복제됩니다. 그 다음에는 리포지토리에 유니티 프로젝트를 넣어줘야 합니다. 먼저 유니티 허브에서 새 프로젝트를 만든 다음 프로젝트 폴더를 열고 에디터를 닫습니다. 그리고 GitHub 데스크탑에서도 쇼인 익스플로러로 로컬 리포지토리를 열고 프로젝트의 내용물들을 리포지토리 폴더로 옮겨주면 됩니다. 그리고 다시 그리고 GitHub 데스크탑에서도 쇼인 프로젝트를 넣어줘야 합니다. 먼저 유니티 허브에서 새 프로젝트를 만든 다음 프로젝트 폴더를 열고 에디터를 닫습니다. 그리고 GitHub 데스크탑에서도 쇼인 익스플로러로 로컬 리포지토리를 열고 프로젝트의 내용물들을 리포지토리 폴더로 옮겨주면 됩니다. 그리고 다시 GitHub 데스크탑 그리고 GitHub 데스크탑에서도 유니티 프로젝트를 넣어줘야 합니다. 먼저 유니티 허브에서 새 프로젝트를 만든 다음 프로젝트 폴더를 열고 리포지토리가 복제됩니다. 그 다음에는 리포지토리에 유니티 프로젝트를 넣어줘야 합니다. 먼저 유니티 허브에서 새 프로젝트를 만든 다음 프로젝트 폴더를 열고 에디터를 닫습니다. 그리고 GitHub 데스크탑에서도 쇼인 익스플로러로 로컬 리포지토리를 열고 프로젝트의 내용물들을 리포지토리 폴더로 옮겨주면 됩니다. 그리고 다시 GitHub 데스크탑을 보면 추가된 파일들이 변경 익스플로러로 넣어줘야 합니다. 를 찾아서 우리를 열고 프로젝트의 내용물들을 리포지토리 폴더로 옮겨주면 됩니다. 그리고 다시 GitHub 데스크탑 앱을 보면 추가된 파일들이 변경사항으로 표시되는 것을 볼 수 있습니다. 서머리에 어떤 내용의 파일을 업로드하는지 설명을 적어주고 커밋 버튼을 눌러
Welcome to the first episode download, and I'm on project. Select the Unity version we've just installed. Or now it might not exactly have. This will create a new plane on the scene. We can center this plane at the reproduce the same as mine. You can go at the top here, click layout, select tool, and then click on the game windows and drag it under the scene like this. So all of these windows have a particular job for making our game. The scene window is the gun mode view to quickly move around and select any object that you want. The hierarchy contains the list of all of the objects in your scene, and for each element, we have in the inspector the list of all of the components attached. Finally, we have here the game windows, which is used plane. This will create a early to organize a perfect. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Everything is ready, guys. We can get started on our VR game. So the first thing that I'm going to do on this scene is add a ground for our player. So we can right click in the hierarchy, go to 3D object, play. This will create a new plane on the scene. We can send this plane at the origin of our scene by changing its position to 0, 0, 0. And we can even change the color of this plane with a new material. So let's create a new object in the project windows and click on material. I'm going to rename it plane material. We can even change the color of this plane with a new material. So let's create a new object in the project windows and click on material. I'm going to rename it plane material. We can change its color to black and drag it to our plane. And just like that, we have changed the material of our plane to this beautiful black material. Perfect. And so at this moment, we have already a camera in the scene, but if we click on play, even if it displays what the camera sees in the game windows, nothing is happening on the VR headset. So let's see how we can enable VR for our project. To do this, let's go to Edit, Project Settings, XR Plugin Management, and click on Install XR Plugin Management. Now that it is installed, as you can see, we can say the plugin that will be used to handle VR on our game for both desktop and Android. So if we want to target the maximum number of VR headsets possible, the best solution is to select OpenXR in desktop and on Android. By doing this, as you can see, we have now, if we want to target the maximum number of VR headsets possible, the best solution is to select OpenXR in desktop and on Android. By doing this, as you can see, we have now the specific OpenXR settings available just down here. And the last thing we can set is the interaction profile we want for a game, which correspond to the type of device we want to support. And as I want to support the maximum number of devices, like I just said, I'm going to add all controller profile on desktop and the Oculus Touch controller profile on Android. There you maximum number of devices, like I just said, I'm going to add all controller profile on desktop and the Oculus Touch controller profile on Android. There you go. We can now close this Windows and let's click on play to try our file on desktop and the Oculus Touch controller profile on Android. There you go. We can now close this Windows and let's click on play to try our game. There it is, guys. I am now able to see what's inside my VR headset, but nothing happens when I rotate my head. So to take the rotation of the headset and move the camera accordingly in the scene, we can select the main camera in the hierarchy, click on Add Component and search for Track Pose Driver. By default, it will select the headset as you can see here with the center IHMD reference, and if we click on play, now it works and I can see inside headset and the camera move accordingly. Nice. By the way, to be able to test your Unity game directly in the Unity editor like I'm doing right now, you must have your VR headset be able to play games on your computer. So for example, either you already have a VR headset plugged by default on your PC, like for the HTC Vive or the Valve Index, for example, or like I'm doing here, I have the Meta XR plugin management and click on install XR plugin management. So if we want to target the maximum number of VR headsets possible, the best solution is to select OpenXR in desktop and on. So to download the Unity XR interaction toolkit, we can click on Windows, go to Package Manager, plus button, add package by name, type com.unity .xr.interaction.toolkit. And now it should automatically install this package. Of course, there will be updates in the futures that might change how this tutorial works.
misunderstanding,
Camera that we have, right click in the hierarchy, go to XR and click on XR. What is up, VR lover? Physics and Unity 2021 1.3, but any version above 2019.4 and any other SDK will work with this physics setup that I'm about to show you. So I already have a XR rig set up in my scene with N Presence, and of course you can watch my tutorial series on how to make a VR game with the Unity XR toolkit if you don't know how to do this. But now let's see how we can turn this VR rig into a physics VR rig. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create an empty parent to this XR origin. We can right click and select create empty parent. We can rename it physics rig. Now make sure that the local position and rotation of origin. As you can see, it adds an XR origin to our scene. So let's make sure that this XR origin is at the center of the game by setting its position and rotation to 0, 0, 0. And as you can see, this XR origin is a bit the same as what we did earlier. We also have a camera that has the track pose driver, but thanks to the interaction toolkit, we now have more features. Like if we go to the XR origin game object, we have here the XR origin component that has a tracking origin mode settings. And with this setting, you can add a certain offset to the camera with the camera Y offset parameter. But most importantly, say if you want to take the height of the player into account or not by setting the mode to floor. And this is what I'm going to do in my case. And there it is if we click on play. As you can see, the camera still works with the VR asset, but now it takes my height into account and it feels like the plane that we added earlier is at the ground level in real life. That's awesome. So now that we have made the setup for the VR asset, let's do it too for the controllers. So to take into account the controllers in our XR rig, let's first add an empty game object. I'm going to right click on the camera offset and click on create empty. So this will create an empty child of the camera offset. A child means that if the parent moves, the children will move as well, which is what we want in this case. So we can rename this empty game object left hand and add a new component called XR controller action based. There you go. Finally, empty game object offset. A child means that if the parent moves, the right hand a lot of time. Now, if you don't know what the input action is, we will talk about them in details in the next episode, so don't worry. But to avoid to do everything ourselves, we will use a component preset by the Unity XR toolkit. First, we need to download this preset, so let's go back to our package manager with Windows, package manager, and on our currently installed version of the Unity XR toolkit, we want to click on import on the start starter asset. And there you go. As you can see, if we close this windows and that we go to samples, XR interaction toolkit, starter assets. And there you go. As you can see, if we close this windows and that we go to samples, XR interaction toolkit, starter assets, we can have a look at this new folder that we've downloaded. And to use these presets, we can go back to our left hand, click on that little icon on the top right corner, and select XRI default left controller. As you can see, now all of the action are set up. That's nice. And we can do exactly the same thing, but for the right hand. Okay, we are almost there. Last but not least, we need to say to Unity to enable the action that we are using. So let's select our XR origin, click on Add Component, and add a new Input Action Manager. Finally, we can select the XR default input action that was inside the starter asset folder and drag it in the action asset list of this component. And there it is, guys. Now if we click on play, as you can see, it works. With the XR rig we built, the left and right hand are now following the position of the controllers. And now, of course, we cannot see it in the game windows because it doesn't have a visual right now. So to quickly test our result in this game windows, let's select both our ends, and let's right click, go to 3D, click on cube. This will of course create a cube as a child of both our ends, and we can select the 2 cube, remove the box collider component because we don't want this to collide, and scale down this cube to something else like 0.1. And now if we click on play, ta-da! We can now see the cube we just added that are following the position and rotation of our controllers. And by the way, if this cube seems a bit far away from your hands, make sure that their position and rotation is at 0, 0, 0. Now, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that you are hyped for this tutorial series. In the next episode, we learn about how input works in VR and how to use it to create a realistic animated hand to replace this ugly cube. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, everything. So finally, let's finish by 2 brackets. So we are back where we were in last episode. Now, to replace this cube by an animated hand, we could obviously make it ourselves in a modeling software like Blender, but to save me some time, what I like to do is actually use the end model from Oculus that you will be able to find in the description below. And after downloading this Unity package, we can simply drag it in the project windows. As you can see, this package contains some animation for the left and right hand, an animated hand. We could obviously make it ourselves in a modeling software like Blender, but to save me some you will be able to find in the description below. And after downloading this Unity package, we can simply drag it in the project windows. As you can see, this package contains some animation below. And after downloading this Unity package, we can simply drag it in the project windows. As you can see, this package contains some animation for the left and right hand, as well as an animator to control them. Two exclusive episodes on this series. Join us, link in the description. In a modeling software like Blender, but to save me some time, what I like to do is actually use the end model from Oculus that you will be able to find in the description below. And after downloading this Unity package, we can simply drag it in the project windows. As you can see, this package contains some animation for the left and the right hand, as well as an animator to control them. It also contains the material of the hand, the 3D model, and a prefab for each hand. So let's click on import. Once it is imported, let's navigate So now to replace this cube by an animated hand, we could obviously make it ourselves in a modeling software like Blender, but to save me some time, what I like to do is actually use the end model from Oculus that you will be able to find in the description. The XR origin is at 0, 0 now, but it should be the case by default. And so to What is up, VR lover? Physics and VR works together like a charm. Any version above 2019.4 and in a script already a new layer that I will call body. There we go. To turn this rig into a physics the mass of the body part, and you can already between the board with the right controller. What is going to over there? We are in the two. I did there was actually not jump using a press of a button, but welcome back everyone to the character model. The first thing, this should, so don't worry about it. But if you're constrained way .0 character icon, excited to make the full VR body avatar with hand animation, and I mean the result is really cool. of course, not perfect. You can, for example, improve the arm hand position, or make a better walking cycle with the IK, or even make the whole arm twist when we rotate the hand, but I think it is already cool like this. Anyway, thank you for watching, and a big shout out to my already made a VR setup up with and presents using the Unity XR toolkit. Now, of course, this tutorial can work with any VR SDK. You will only need the position of the hands. Of course, this tutorial can work with any VR SDK and install it. Okay, so I'm inside a very simple Unity project. I already made a VR setup with and presents using the Unity XR toolkit. Now, of course, this tutorial can work with any VR SDK. You will only need the position of the hand and of the head. Below. And after downloading this Unity package, we can simply drag it in the project windows. As you can see, this package contains some animation for the left and right hand, as well as an animator to control them. It also contains the material of the hand, the 3D model, and a prefab for each hand. So let's click on import. Once it is imported, let's navigate to Oculus and prefabs, and I'm going to select both the cube we used in last episode. Press delete to remove them, and replace this cube by dragging the left hand model under the left hand and the right hand model under the right hand. There you go. Now, as you can see, we have the two hands showing in our scene. Now let's have a better look at them. As you can see, this hand has already an animator component that is used to manage its animation. So to open the animator panel, make sure that the hand is selected, and we can go to Windows, Animation, Animator. Perfect. So this has opened the animator panel, and if we double click on Blend 3 and select Blend 3, we can, so this has opened the animator panel, and if we double click on Blend 3 and select Blend 3, we can see in the preview down below that depending on the value of the grip and trigger parameters, the hand will animate between 4 animation. And by the way, I made the animator step that depending on the value of the grip and trigger parameters, the hand will animate between 4 animation. And by the way, I made the animator step by step in my previous tutorial series, so if you want to learn more about how to make one yourself, go watch it. I will obviously leave a link in the description. So in short, what we need to do is use the input of the controller to update these two values. Finally, let's go back to our scene windows here at the top, and if we continue to explore this hand that we just added, we will be able to find as a child the renderer of the hand with its material. So we just added, we will be able to find as a child the renderer of the hand with its material. So if you'd like to change the color of the hand, you can do it here. For example, I'm going to change it to blue in my case. Material. So if you'd like to change the color of the end we just added, we will be able to find as a child the renderer of the hand with its material. So if you'd like to change the color of the end, you can do it here. For example, I'm going to change it to blue in my case. Oh, and if the material is pink, this might be because you are not using the universal renderer. During pipeline like I'm doing on this project, but you can fix this simply here by setting the shader to standard. Now if we click on play, instead of two ugly cubes, we have hands following our controller. Nice. But for now, when we press on any input on the controller, it does not change the animation of the hand, so let's learn how to read and use an input in VR to move our hand. Now, to learn how to use input, let's first make a custom component to use it. I'm going to select one of the hand model. Let's say the right one, click on add component, and we can create a custom component by writing the name we want there. So in my case, I will write animate hand on input, click on new script. But the first thing that we are going to need is, of course, any character that you want. So what I like to do is go to Mixamo. There you can download any character that you want. In my case, I'm going to download this one. So let's click on download, select FBX for Unity, and click on download again. Now, once it is downloaded, you can simply drag it in the project folder of your Unity project. And there you go. At this point, it should look like this. Now, little tips, if you have no material showing on the character, you can actually go to Materials, and in Location, select Use External Materials. Next, make sure that the animation type of this avatar is set to humanoid. You can do so here on the Rig tab, then on Animation Type, Humanoid, and then click on Apply. But now that's done, we have a nice looking character in our project that we can drag in the hierarchy. Have a nice looking character in our project that we can drag in the hierarchy. There it is, we can move it to the side like this. And we are now ready to use it as our own VR body. Okay, so a naive way to make this character follow our controller would be to go in its bone, like here under spine, and for example move the hand bone to the controller position. But as you can see, there is just one little issue. Well, the rest of the arms kinematic and search for animation rigging package. package. There it is. We can select it and click on install. Once downloaded, we can close the package manager, and if we select back rigging package, there it is. We can select it and click on install. Downloaded character that we can rename VR. Downloaded, we can close the package manager, and if we select back our character that we can rename VR character IK, let's go to the downloaded, we can close the package manager, and if we select back our character that we can rename VR character IK. Okay, let's go to the animation rigging tab that was recently added and select Bone Renderer Setup. As you can see, this has added some gizmo to display the bones of our character, and that we will use to easily select them from the scene view. By the way, you can even change its color here, but now let's get started with the arms IK. For this, we need to add some constraint to the rig that we can see here. I'm going to create an empty children to the character IK that I can rename VRIK and then add a rig component, an empty children to the character IK that I can rename VRIK and then add a rig component to it. Now, as you can see, we have an error showing, so to fix this, let's go back to the character IK, add component, a rig component to it. Now, as you can see, we have an error showing, so to fix this, let's go back to the character IK, add component, and add a rig component to it. Now, as you can see, we have an error showing, so to fix this, let's go back to the character IK, add component, and add a rig component to it. Now, as you can see, we have an error showing, so to fix this, let's go back to the character IK, add component, and add a rig builder. Finally, we can then drag the VRIK rig to the rig builder. There you go. Now we are ready to add some new constraint. I'm going to create a new empty game object, call it right arm IK. We can to add some new constraint. I'm going to create a new empty game object, call it right arm IK. We can then add a new component called 2bones IK. To set up this component, we first need to click on one of the first bone from the right hand. This should make you select this Mixamo rig right hand. This component, we first need to click on one of the first bone from the right hand. This should make you select this Mixamo rig right hand game object. So let's now go back to the right arm IK, drag it to the tip, and here is the real magic. Now let's right click on the component and select. Now go back to the right arm IK, drag it to the tip, and this should make you now go back to the right arm IK, drag it to the tip, and here is this should make you select this Mixamo rig right hand game object. So let's now go back to the right arm IK, drag it to the tip, and here is the real magic. Now let's right click on the component and select auto fill from tip transform. And as you can see, this has auto complete the two other bones, so the root and the mid, but also added two empty game objects for the target and the hint. Next, we need to play them correctly. I'm going to select the target, press on Ctrl key, and and then select the mix ammo to play them correctly. I'm going to select the target, press on Ctrl key, and then select the mix ammo right hand from earlier, and go to Animation Rigging, Align Transform, and select the mix ammo right hand from earlier, and go to Animation Rigging, Align Transform. And here it is. As you can see, this has automatically placed the target to the hand position. Now for the hint, this is used to say in which direction the arm will fall. So what we can do is simply